Hello students, Mr. Rowell here again with part 2 of our Computer Programming 12 tutorial on file input-output. In this shorter tutorial, I would say shorter, we'll see if I actually pull it off, I'm going to be showing you how to set up your project for the challenge exercises that I've assigned to you guys. I'm going to be setting up the very first method that I ask you to do that's going to be able to access all the information from the dictionary, and from there I want you to work with figuring out what types of methods and logical strategies you can use to solve the rest of the problems, both for reading and for writing. In this example, we are going to be reading the entire dictionary of words from a file. I'll be providing you with this file called all words. Notice it's a pretty big file for a text file, and that's because if we pop this thing open, we'll see that it has a massive amount of information, pretty even hard to load even on my quick computer here at home. And it has every single word, or pretty much, maybe it's missing a few words in the English language that we're going to be processing and working with in a text file. Kind of a cool thing to be able to do with, I think. So note this file is called all words. So the first thing I'm going to be doing in my file utility project is I will be linking my file to this. Now, I'm going to call it this time dictionary, just because that helps you remember what the information is in here. And I'm going to be accessing the all words text file. Import my file class. Now in this project, I want to be actually working with a separate Java file that I'm going to be accessing methods through. Now I could create them in here. I'm just going to create a new class for this. I'm going to call this my file utility class. Oh, I'm going to call it file utility 2 for now. Do I have one of my other projects in the background here? Oh, it's right up top here. You can name yours, let's just call it, you know what, file util for now, just because I don't want duplicate names. I've been naming things in different spots. In your project, you should have a nice clean sheet to be able to work with. Cool. So in this class, I needed to have a private variable of our file to be able to have that information be acknowledged by it. And in my constructor, here's what I want us to do with this. I want us to accept the file that's being sent to it. And then I'm going to process the file. First, I'll just set my file here. I'm going to process the file that's sent to it in many different ways with this method. So it's kind of an own special set of rules to be able to process through whatever file I send to it. In this case, it's a pretty big one. So you're going to be creating a whole bunch of methods in your file util, or whatever you want to call it, class. I'm going to define the first one for you here. I'm going to define the getContents method, which is going to print back all the information from this dictionary for me to see on my screen. So how am I going to go about doing this? Well, I'm going to be receiving a file when I create an instance of this. So I'm going to create a new file util. And I'm going to be sending this file util my dictionary. I'm going to be sending it this information to be processed. So what I want to do with the contents, well, I'm dealing with an IO here. So I got to try and catch IO exception. I will set the information for this here. In this case, I'm just going to let it print out the normal system message for this, import my exception, Control-Shift-I, and then define the logic for this here. So since I'm going to be reading from a file, we're going to be using the file reader class. I'll call it read this time just for the quickness of typing. File reader, and I will be reading whatever file, import real quick, whatever file has been sent over here. So I can, in the future, but consider using this to process different files. Maybe I have another file on my computer, some document that I want to process using these methods I've created. And then my document, whatever it might be called. Maybe you've created something else that you're curious to be working with. And at different points in time, we'll be having different pieces of information to work with. And if we just access it through the program that you create here, we'll be able to process all sorts of information with it that you have customized and generalized to apply to whatever file we insert, which is pretty cool. But for now, we don't have this my document file. We're just going to worry about our dictionary. So back over here to our logic. Now we've created a file reader to read the information from our dictionary. And we want to use our scanner. Let's call it in this time. Remember, we can name it whatever we want, as long as it's ideally giving information about what it does. I'm going to be scanning, import here, the information that I'm reading from that file that I've received. I'm going to be defining a slightly different loop in this scenario. While the data input has next. This means as long as there's more information. Now, if you read the description for has next here, I'll just let it come up. You can always, thank you, has next. For some reason, my program's being glitchy. That's really strange. I actually haven't seen this in a long time. You'll be able to kind of look at the documentation for yourself when you access this method. Basically, it's going to access the next unique piece of information being sent to it, the next token that's being sent to it. So it's going to read each word as an independent unit and be able to, well, in this case, I just want to first of all, and I'm getting contents, to be able to see this printed out. I'm going to print line. Oh, I jumped ahead of myself here. My apologies. Let's backtrack what we're talking about. My brain went one step ahead. This is a Boolean. While there is more information here, then I'm accessing the next method, which is going to actually look for the next token that it will print out. And in this case, it should be the individual words that were getting popped out to us here. So while this is all going on, while this is all being tried, it's going to watch out for there being any exceptions to the program not being able to be accessed. So actually, this should be good enough for our logic. As long as there's more information to be accessed, access it, and print it out to the screen. Let's see what happens here. I actually have my console somewhere else here. Let me just clear this so we can see this beautifully done right live. So here's my console. And when we run this, where'd my other project go? Here. Oh, silly me. Build successful. Of course it is. Nothing's happening yet. We have created the object of our FileUtil, but we have not yet accessed our getContents method. Now that in my main I'm accessing this, when I run it, I should see in the background here that the program is accessing, indeed, this entire dictionary, one word at a time, in alphabetical order. Separated them all out. You'll see there's some compound words with dashes in there. Lots of different types of words that are popping out here. And at the end, we get, I don't know why these are considered words, but apparently they are. You can take a peek through a list of almost all of the words in the English language. Now, with this data, these number words here are kind of fun. Lots of cool things to explore inside of this file. If you're a Scrabble player, maybe you are aware of some of these weirder ones already in advance. But now we're able to snag this information. You can consider what you might be able to do next. Perhaps, instead of just printing it to the console, you can actually store the data or work with it in some way. Maybe gather the information in some method. Maybe your first method that you might be trying is get a word count, or maybe a character count. Lots of different types of data processing to do here, and your main task is to actually go about doing that processing. Best of luck with solving those exercises. Let me know if you need help, and I'm really curious to see what kind of custom methods you create at the end of each step. Hopefully that's a helpful guide to get you started on how to set this all up.